Good afternoon. Welcome to anybody joining. I can see a few participants signing in. We're just going to give a couple of minutes for people to join before we kick off. I think this is going to be a smaller group than we had for this morning. Of course, we've already had our initial launch webinar where we kind of gave the first overview of change. So for some people, this might be the second or third time they've joined us. Okay. So we've just gone a couple of minutes after the kickoff time. So let's get started. As I said, thank you for joining us and welcome. I'm going to just quickly share screen here. So welcome to the deep dive session that we're doing on the updated re-release of the GWO basic technical training and control of hazardous energy training standards. We did a lot of standard updates in this latest release, and some of them have had more change than others. So we're doing a deep dive today, looking at the technical training standards. Myself and my colleague Peter will take you through our projects. My name is Thomas Redmond, so I was the project manager for the Control of Hazardous Energy Training Standard review, and I have a couple of the guys that have been really helpful as part of our subject matter expert working group contributing as well, and introduce them in a moment. Peter, I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Pardon, just needed to unmute. Thank you, Thomas. I'm Peter Wiingaard, Training Project Manager with GWO, and I spent some time reviewing the BTTI module, and from that project, we've released 2 new installation modules, so I look very much forward to tell you about that in just a while.
Thank you, Peter. And joining us as well for the discussion today from Siemens Energy, we have Ian Balmforth, who's Global Head of the Low Voltage Hazardous Energies for Offshore Wind with Siemens Energy. And we also have from Takkion, one of our latest members, Jared Click, who's training manager over in North America with Takkion. Both of the guys were a huge help in, particularly with the Control of Hazardous Energies review project. So I'm just going to let the guys quickly introduce themselves. So I just need to stop sharing for a moment. So hopefully you can see everybody. Ian, thank you for joining us.
No problem. Great to see everybody, and I hope you have a really good session and get the information out that you need. My name's Ian Balmforth. I'm the Global Head of Hazardous Energy for Offshore Wind within Siemens Gamesa. So we own the Safe System of Work. We create all of the Safe System of Work documentation, so isolation documents, and we manage all the competencies around the people that actually receive those documents to go to work. So fancy title. I'm an industrial electrician at heart. Started my apprenticeship when I was 16. I've done nothing but be an industrial electrician. Joined offshore wind 15, 16 years ago as a CTC, so a commissioning technician, and now I am where I am. So good to see you all.
Thanks for joining us today, Ian. And Jared, welcome as well from, are you in Texas at the moment, Jared?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. San Angelo, Texas. Started out as a technician in 2010. Worked throughout the country and as well as up in Canada, down in some other locations, and then got into training in 2011, and then recently training manager. So glad to be here.
Thanks, Jared. Thank you for joining us. And so the guys at Takkion helped us to pilot the updated version of the CoHE standards as well. So we'll get some interesting insights from the discussion from Jared and from Ian as we go through. So let me just go back and open up the slide deck again, and we can take you through. So this is the agenda for today. I'm going to take us through the detail of the changes to the CoHE standard, and Peter will take us through the detail of the technical training installation module. There is a Q&A function. So in Zoom, along the bottom, I think for everybody, you should be able to see a Q&A button that you can click. You can submit questions. Feel free to submit questions at any point. And as we go through, we'll try to answer those. So we'll maybe take a little break between the CoHE and the BTT information for a discussion and to tackle any questions. And we'll talk at the last few slides about the support resources. We've done a lot more than we have in the past to support you with information, frequently asked questions, detailed change logs, and we'll talk about the technical bulletin. All are there to support you in making updates and changes. So this is the last webinar. We had one of these webinars this morning, and we're covering the same topics again this afternoon. Just to reiterate all the change that came out with the latest update, here you can see the list of standards that were re-released. We re-released a wide range of standards, and they replace quite a few of the previous standards, particularly because we combined initial and refresher training standards for BST, ART, and others. And so this is just giving you a quick snapshot of all of the updated standards, which will now be available for use, and they're on the website. You can also see the requirements for certification and training also had an update. So have a look on the website. You're able to download all of these updated versions and see all of the full detail there. And we'll start off with some of the detail on CoHE. So one of the things we've done with any standards that have a refresher training, and that includes CoHE, is merge the standards together. We previously published separate initial and refresher training standards. That created an additional burden of administration, document management, cross-referencing, a lot of extra work for ourselves and for training providers and anyone that uses standards. So we've tried to make things a lot simpler by merging those documents together. It doesn't really make a change to how you deliver training. It doesn't change what you need to do in terms of your auditing and approvals. It just means everything is in one place. So previously you had, for example, CoHE, initial training version 4, refresher version 4 as two standards. That's now just CoHE standard version 5, everything in one place. If you go to the electrical safety, you'll see electrical safety initial and refresher training together. You'll see pressure fluids initial and refresher training together. So no impact on course codes, no impact on approvals, no change to audit requirements, but just making things more accessible, reducing the documentation you need to keep track of. Still just as modular as before. All the modules, the training programs that were there before haven't changed with this. It's just documentation. And this makes things hopefully a little bit easier to manage for providers and anyone else that uses the documents. So what about the actual change to CoHE? The biggest change with the CoHE standard is a restructuring in the modules. Previously, CoHE contained 3 initial training modules and 3 refresher training modules. You had CoHE basic safety, CoHE electrical safety, and CoHE pressure fluid safety, and each of those 3 all had to be refreshed every 2 years. The biggest change now, when you look at the CoHE standard, is that it is reduced to 2 modules, electrical safety, initial training, and pressure fluid safety, initial training, each of which have a refresher every 24 months. And so 2 modules with 2 refreshers is what you'll find inside the standard. We've also looked at the duration, so I'll go into some detail about how we made the training a little bit more efficient and targeted. So a bit of a reduced duration on these initial training modules, no change to the refresher duration, which are already very short. And we also managed to do a significant alignment with some relevant legislation, NFPA 70E for North America and others as well, and I'll highlight those as we go through. Highlighting, we've taken a module out of the CoHE standard, the CoHE basic safety, which is that BASC course code. That module is no longer in the CoHE standard, but it hasn't just disappeared. The training content has migrated across to the BTT standard. So the basic technical training standard now includes what was previously the content for basic safety in hazardous energies. It's got a new name, BTT Hazardous Energies Basic Safety, a new course code, HEBS, but it is not substantially different in terms of what you teach and what you learn for that training. What was previously a half-day training is still a half-day training. However, I'll highlight some of the things we've done to make that more efficient and reduce duplication. However, the big change with that one, when it moves to the BTT standard, it becomes an enduring training record. So you no longer need to refresh that, and it makes it a little bit easier to continue on and progress into your electrical and pressure fluid safety. So here you can see the impact of the change at a high level. Electrical safety initial training reduced to 8 hours, so that's one training day, where previously it was just over a training day into a second day. Pressure fluids initial training down to 5.5 hours. So you can kind of do these together as a day and a half. Hazardous Energies Basic Safety, so that was previously CoHE Basic Safety. That was a 4-hour training, no matter what. Now you have an option to deliver that as part of BTT in 2 hours for participants that have BTT mechanical, electrical, and hydraulics. And I'll show why that's the case. So there's an overlap there that we've eliminated, and that gives a bit of efficiency. Later on, we'll talk about the impact on legacy training records, audits and approvals and certifications. There's a lot of support in the technical bulletin on that, on those questions, and feel free to put questions into the Q&A on those kind of topics. So overall, we kind of feel that we've got some good benefits out of this, particularly removing repetition of basic technical content covered in the BTT mechanical, electrical, and hydraulic modules. When we look at the training profiles for technicians, those are typical modules delivered to many profiles, and we don't want to repeat what people already know. We want to build on it. And so now you get to build on it with a more practical focus in the CoHE, where before you were kind of repeating some of the basic things you already knew. Hazardous Energies Basic Safety is an enduring record, so that's a benefit now, not needing to do a very, what was previously a very short refresher. So that's now an enduring record. And that, we think, makes it easier to get participants enrolled on the electrical safety and pressure fluid safety at that time when they're ready to progress. So this is the high-level snapshot of change. You can see the BTT Hazardous Energies Basic Safety, what used to be CoHE Basic Safety, was 4 hours and 10 minutes, and that was the only way to deliver it. Now, on its own, it is 4 hours, but for anybody that does BTT mechanical, electrical, and hydraulics, it's reduced to 2 hours. And we'll see at the end of the presentation, the big benefit of that is it now fits into a week of training where you have other BTT modules that you're giving an entry-level technician, and so this will fit in nicely to a training week. Electrical safety from 10 hours 45 down to 8, and pressure fluids safety from 7 hours down to 5.5. So version 4 to version 5, a little bit simpler, more efficient, more focused on practical skills and applying knowledge, especially when you get to the stage of doing your electrical and pressure fluid safety, stepping up and learning to take on some more responsibility. So previously we had CoHE Basic Safety as the basic introductory level training, and now you have Hazardous Energies Basic Safety as part of BTT, which is covering that target audience. So your entry level technicians will often be doing some combination of BTT modules, and here we can see where the savings are made in terms of time. Within BTT Mechanical, BTT Electrical, and BTT Hydraulic, you have these lessons. Actually, you have a longer lesson in each of these topics. So mechanical, electrical, and hydraulic safety are all covered quite extensively. And rather than repeating that, if you have those modules already completed, you're only doing the content you can see on the right-hand side, the unique CoHE content. So somebody would be just covering 2 hours in addition to their BTT modules to cover CoHE roles and responsibilities, lockout, tagout, and particularly focused on the scenarios. What you will see is a little bit of movement in some of the elements within the module to kind of move some of the things that were a little bit dry and classroom-based into a practical setting. So the response to an electrical incident, the hydraulic oil injections, that is something that was moved into the scenario part, just to give a chance to really engage learners in some practical stuff. And so here we can see the benefit of eliminating the duplication with BTT mechanical, electrical, and hydraulics, where we now are able to fit into a 40-hour training week, everything to cover BTT mechanical, BTT electrical, BTT hydraulics, even BTT bolting, and the hazardous energies basic safety. And that just about fits into 40 hours without needing to, take people out of the room, out of the classroom to do e-learning. Purely with a traditional kind of a delivery, this can all fit into 40 hours. So that's a big benefit, and we think this is a nice way of being able to package up the modules so that they all work together. Just to go into a little bit of quick deep dive into where time efficiency is coming from. So we haven't lost anything, but we have made it a bit more focused. In version 4 of the electrical safety, lesson 3, 4, and 5, we're really repeating some basic principles of safety on PPE, safe practices, and safe working conditions. Well, that now lives in lesson 3 of version 5 under establishing electrically safe work conditions. And so that gives your participants the opportunity to illustrate what they've already learned in their BTT training or their prior learning and come in and apply it in some practical stuff. You'll see lesson 7, stored energy from version 4, has been kind of swallowed up into the task-based scenarios as well. So capacity, capacitors and batteries, and applying some, again, good safe working practice happens in a task rather than just as a separate lesson. So a little bit shorter in terms of numbers of lessons and more focus on applying skills and also more focus on taking responsibility as the person who's actually in charge of making sure that the work conditions are safe. And the same for the pressure fluids module. Here we can see lesson 3, 4, and 5, pressure fluid hazards, PPE, and safe working practices. Instead of repeating basic content, we now fold that into a lesson 3 on safe working practices with pressure fluids, and we apply the skills in a more practical way rather than just repeating the basics that you've already taken in when you join the training. Another fantastic addition, I think, is in both the electrical and pressure fluids modules, we've increased the focus on human factors. So in lesson 1, we always talk a little bit about human factors, but now we're trying to support the training to really focus in on stepping up responsibility. We've tried to support providers with access to the Toolbox database. So our good friends in the G+ and Energy Institute, they maintain the Toolbox database of incidents. There's incidents from multiple sectors in this database, but particularly for wind, you will find records of real reports of lessons learned from real incidents. We would encourage you to use that to build some stories and some engaging scenarios around the real world consequences of failure, human failure, equipment failure, and all the other kinds of shortcomings. The idea is really to engage your participants in taking on that responsible kind of role of being there to take care of themselves, take care of the system, and take care of others in the workplace, and then focus all of your learning activity and your scenarios particularly around that, to really apply the tools that you have, your safe system of work, and all of the control measures that you have in place to really use them to a good effect when you're doing the training. So have a look at the lesson 1 on human factors, and I'm sure when we jump over to have a chat with Ian, he might have something interesting to say on this, because he was a great contributor to that one. In terms of the refresher training, so CoHE refresher for electrical safety and pressure fluid safety, it was always the case that these took a very practical approach and a scenario-based approach to refreshers, and we've kind of improved how we present that, made it a little bit simpler and more easy to understand. So do look at the introduction section of the standard, where we talk about developing your assessments for refreshers. The approach here is that your participants are coming in, they've already been trained, and they're coming back to be reassessed really on their capability. And so we present them with some tasks which get more challenging as we go through and progress through the learning objectives. So rather than teaching them something they already know, we present them with the task, we present them with the support information and documentation that they need to do the job, And we also give them access to additional resources, and they can choose to go and use them when they need them. And if they're successful, we move them on to a more challenging task. And if they're struggling, then we have an opportunity to intervene as an instructor, coach, teach, and then put them back to display their capability to make a system safe and to work safely. So for the electrical and pressure fluid safety, this keeps it interesting for experienced participants. And it means if they've got great experience and they know what they're doing, they can move through this very quickly. And if they need extra support, then you have an opportunity to give them support. Another thing that's been added to the standard is extra support and guidance. So if you look at section 7, it'll direct you to the annex. In the annex, you're going to find some stuff that was kind of in with the terms and definitions previously, which is a little bit of guidance on some good working practices for hazardous energies. So if you now look in Annex 2, you'll see that that's been kind of separated out as a little bit of a guidance section. So it gives you some support on applying good working practices for electrical and pressure fluid safety. It also has some of the roles and responsibilities defined. How we use them in the training standard may not be exactly how you use them in the region where you work, so you're free to adapt those, but that gives you some guidance and support. And it also has alignment references. I'll just show what they look like. This is the section on alignment references. So we've kind of made an effort to make sure that this training is not falling out of compliance with relevant legislation, EN 50110 on the electrical side, EN 4413 on the pressure fluid side, and then the North American side, looking at OSHA, you can see a range of relevant legislation there from OSHA, as well as NFPA 70E and the wind turbine safety rules from G+ and Safety On. This is not the only thing that you should be aligning to. Wherever you are in the world, you should also be aligning to whatever is local and applies in your region, but hopefully this will support you as well. So that's a new kind of enhanced section. It was always there, but it was a little bit less detailed previously. Before we get into a little bit of discussion, I'll just mention the technical bulletin. The technical bulletin is full of specific guidance on implementing these changes. So you have an impact on your certifications. If you're an approved certified provider for these CoHE modules already, you do not lose anything, but you may have a name change on your CoHE Basic Safety. So your CoHE Basic Safety is now going to have a new name, BTT Hazardous Energies Basic Safety. So you don't need any special auditing or any additional auditing. You will still be approved, but you'll have a new designation on one of those approvals. We also have some detail there about the impact on audits. We do not expect there to be any additional auditing for this change, but you will need to work with your certification body if you have an upcoming audit or you have a future audit planned to make sure that you're using the up-to-date standard and that you're going through your audit correctly. So the technical bulletin has some support there, which goes into fine detail about impact on planned audits and upcoming audits for anybody that's already certified. There is an impact for participants who already have training records. It's a positive impact. So anybody that has a CoHE Basic Safety certificate currently from the date of release last week, they would have a Basic Safety certificate which expires. If they have a CoHE Basic Safety refresher, it expires. And so we've agreed with the members and with our WINDA team to roll out an update to all of those participant records. It means that every participant that has a valid CoHE Basic Safety or Basic Safety refresher will receive an updated BTT Hazardous Energy Basic Safety certificate. So what they will then have is an enduring training record. It means there's no action required from the participants or the training providers. And so we're rolling this out to all of the participant profiles at the moment. And so that will mean that in the future, they have an enduring record. They don't need to take an action. And in the future, if they are attending electrical safety refresher, or some other training where they have prerequisites, that they'll have the prerequisites that they need in the future. So a little bit complicated how this is actually rolled out. There's detail in the technical bulletin, and reach out if you have any questions about it as well. But no action required from providers to make this happen. After release, which was on the 10th of March, as I say, participants that complete the old version of the modules during the grace period, they will be receiving this new certificate, the HEBS, BTT Hazardous Energy Basic Safety. So we always have a 6 months grace period. So from now until September 10th, you would be able to deliver the old version of the CoHE Basic Safety or refresher, as well as some providers making updates. Could be from today or tomorrow, it could be any time from release where you make your updates. The deadline is September, and so we have a mechanism there to deal with the overlap. And again, the technical bulletin gives you some support in that. Okay, so that's just a summary of the lots of kind of fine detail of change within the CoHE. I'm just going to take a quick break from the slide deck, and I'm just going to go back to our kind of participants and have a bit of a discussion. So I'm just going to kind of reach out. Ian, you were very instrumental in this update to CoHE. And from your perspective in Siemens, I'm interested to get like your thoughts a little bit on, what's the positive impact that you see with having this change in the CoHE and the kind of new structure, and how might it kind of positively benefit you guys?
I think there's two sides to this coin, and the first side is in the global industry and how we're moving forward as a global industry and developing. And for that element of it, what I think this clearly demonstrates is GWO's ability to take a new technician through a transit program where they can tangibly see their skill sets improving towards a logical conclusion where it's no longer generic, and then it moves into the individual technologies that belong to Siemens or Vestas or whoever. So it demonstrates a clear pathway and a clear line that technician can invest in themselves and move themselves in terms of a skill set further up and higher up the food chain in terms of a skill set. So I think that's a huge plus and a huge value to the technicians and to the industry at large. Secondly, from Siemens' perspective, what it really does is it demonstrates tangible skills. I think the difference between this and its previous iteration is that where the previous iteration was around an awareness, this is demonstrable of an actual skill set. There's something for me to hang my hat on. So when I can see this qualification is there, I know that this technician standing in front of me has had the opportunity to create a safe working environment and understands the process and how they do that. They'll have the opportunity to prove to their examiners and prove to their cohort that they're physically using the correct test equipment in the correct way to establish that safe working environment, and that they understand the behaviors associated with that, which takes us back to the 1.7, the human factors. What we find is really important about this is the word integrity, and if there's any doubt there, integrity means doing the right thing when nobody's looking, doesn't it? And so for us, fundamentally, around integrity, it's really important to understand, again, there's two sides to that argument. There's the people that were perhaps a little bit ignorant of what the requirement was, and the practical aspect of this course now leaves no ignorance there. They will fully be understanding of how they prove that. And the other side of it is one that's less spoke about in the industry. It's people doing the wrong things for 100% the right reasons. And we in Siemens see that a lot. So people are understanding of the expense that's spent in working offshore. They understand the deadlines that we have to try and work to. And perhaps they cut corners in trying to achieve those deadlines. And we see it in decent sized numbers in third parties. So for example, a part of the equipment might come onto the shore side ready to be loaded onto the vessel, and we can see that there's perhaps an isolating padlock been left in place. And understanding the necessity to get that loaded quite quickly so we can perhaps make the next tide, somebody makes the decision to cut that padlock without following the process that's required. So that's a really good example of where somebody makes the wrong decision, but for all the right reasons, really. They care, they want to move the project forward, they understand the expense, but one of the things that you'll hear from Siemens time and time again is safety stands by itself. We expect you to take that time. We expect you to do things properly. And I think this course, and particularly that human factor element of it, really enforces that message. So for us, it's very, very welcome.
That's great to hear. And with no small contribution from yourself, being involved in the work group, we had yourself, we had the team from Vestas, we had Enercon, with GE support as well. And also, Jared, from your perspective, you supported us piloting and testing out the new version of the modules. What was your experience with the new version of these trainings? We've kind of cut time, but I don't think we've lost anything, and I think they've improved in focus.
That's actually 100% true. That's what I have in my notes here. It's great to see that training's become more efficient while improving the outcome of training, right? As far as the pilot goes, it went great. It was positive feedback from both the participants and also the instructors, because a lot of these instructors are teaching this group BTT, electrical, mechanical, hydraulics, and then going into CoHE. And a lot of things we've already covered. The instructors already covered. The participants sitting in the seats have already talked about it for the whole week and last week as well. So this is a nice addition to our version 5. I think it's going to work out a lot better this time.
Fantastic. Right, let's give Peter some time to talk about the installation module as well, and then we might come back to continue the conversation. So Peter, I'm going to hand over to you, and I'm going to share your presentation once you're ready.
Thank you so much, Thomas. That's very kind of you. So let's get it up on the screen. There we are, basic technical training, BTT version 11.
Yeah.
So I'll speak a little bit about the BTTI, which is no more and replaced by BTTI mechanical and BTTI electrical. And so to sum up, the background for this change was a review done on the installation module, because we found out that the uptake of installation module training was very low compared to the other BTT modules. And so we went out and asked ourselves, we made a survey, what's the reason for this? And the answers we got back was twofold. First, the standard is long and uneven. It was, the module is long and uneven. It's 17 hours and 45 minutes, which means it's just about not manageable in 2 days. And second of all, it was not really fit for profile, because a lot of the installers, they would either do electrical installation or mechanical installation. And so you had kind of a mixed bag, which was on one hand very long and not really aligned for purpose. And so what we did was we decided to split the module up. We retired the BTTI module, and then we created the 2 new ones. We trimmed them a bit, and made an option to deliver them as standalone modules, but also as a combined version, where you could do what is equivalent to the existing BTTI, and that would then be done in 2 full days, because we reduced a bit of the overlapping elements and trimmed other small bits. And thus we got the BTTI-E and BTTI-M. And for the people who already have the BTTI, it's very easy, because the legacy BTTI training record holders, they will simply be awarded with window records for the 2 new modules, because they are equivalent. And also you existing training providers who are accredited for BTTI, you gain approval for both modules. So that's the overall laydown of it. Yeah. When we look at the timings here, then for the 2 standalone modules, the impact is that you'll be able to do installation mechanical training in 1 full day and installation electrical in roughly 1.5 days. And as mentioned, the combined delivery, which is equal for the old BTTI, that will be done in 2 full days. And here on the right side of the screen, you can see an overview of all the lessons which was in the previous BTTI module. And this is an excerpt from the Annex 4 in the BTT standard, and it basically specifies if you do a combined delivery, what lesson, what module versions shall we base the lesson on. So you can see you have 14 lessons all in all, and some of them, for instance, the introduction to installation, you will do that based on the BTT installation electrical module and take the version from there. So, and I'll explain to you in a bit why. this is to show you that you can the annex shows you directly how to pick and choose the content you need to have for the combined delivery when you do that. And the benefit of this is, of course, that we can trim a bit here and there and have the combined installation done in 2 full days. And also that when we look at the 2 new modules, the BTT electrical installation module can be taken without any prerequisites. So before, you would have installers who needed to go do electrical installation work. They would not only have to do the more than 2 days of electrical installation training and mechanical installation training, they would also need to go out and do the prerequisites for the full BTTI, which are BTT mechanical and BTT bolt tightening. So all in all, if you're an electrical installer, you can save more than 3 days of training by just taking the BTT installation electrical course here. And also we've arranged for the training providers who already have the modules in scope that this will not go out and require extra audit costs or bureaucracy for you. I'll also get back to that in just a second. So here you see the overview of it. For the installation mechanical module, you have BTT mechanical and BTT bolt tightening. And that also goes for the combined delivery, because there you will come out with both the, you will need that for the mechanical. So you electrical module, they are 1 full day for the installation mechanical module. I really worked hard to make that available for you. And for the electrical installation module, we have roughly 1.5 days, 12 hours and 45 minutes. And then again, 2 full days for the combined delivery. Go to the next slide. Yeah. So to talk a little bit about the impact to the you training providers who already are required to or accredited to deliver BTTI. So we will continue to accept training provider certificates for the combined BTTI and BTT electrical until the certification cycle has expired. So that means no change will be required to the certificates of you training providers who are going to deliver the outgoing BTTI module. But if you do deliver the outgoing BTTI modules, then you can see it. For new training providers who will deliver, needs to be accredited for the BTTI mechanical and BTTI electrical. They will need to have both modules in scope. And this is something we decided for 2 reasons. First of all, installation is considered from an instructor point of view a holistic discipline. You need to know your way around both things, because there are a little bit of electrical installation involved in the mechanical stuff part, even if you don't only do mechanical installations, and vice versa, a little bit of electrical installation required for mechanical installers. And also the reason was there was a concern if we divided this up, would that mean that some of the duty holders who require to have the combined delivery for their participants, would there be a bottleneck if you had training providers who went out and would only deliver one installation module and not the other? So the requirements are set that you will need to have both modules on scope. And the requirements, how this is done, is set in an addendum to the requirements for certification. We can go to the next slide to see that. No, sorry, that's coming in a bit. I'll just say something about the existing training records. So existing BTTI record holders, they are enduring. And so that basically means they will not be made obsolete by this update. And for this purpose, not to have them reflect the training that's out there, then all existing BTTI record holders they will be accredited with a valid BTTI Wiingaard training record for BTTI-M and for BTTI-E on March 10th, 2026. So that already happened. So that means that if you have a BTTI, old BTTI training records, you will continue to have that to reflect the actual version of the standard, the standard which you took your training under, and then also the new one to see that this is what you have going forward. So it's tangible for people in the future. What does this BTTI mean, even if it's not there? And for the training providers, when you go out and need to have your training cycle renewed at the next audits, we've arranged this combined audits in a way so there will be 3 hours of assessment in total in accordance with Annex 4. That was what I was talked about, the combined delivery of the 2 modules. So that basically means that existing training providers who have the BTTI on scope and who in the next cycle of certification will need to go out and have both modules on scope, you will not require anything additional with your audits. It will be completely business as usual, a 3-hour audit for both modules. Yeah. The BTTI-E and BTTI-M instructors, they will, of course, be required to deliver both modules. And that goes without saying. So, because if both modules are on scope, then you will also have the instructors, the instructor requirements set to be able to deliver both modules. But as it is for all existing instructors, they are in fact, because the old module was concerning electrical installation and mechanical installation both, then that would mean that all existing BTTI instructors, they are automatically qualified to deliver both modules. So also here, no additional paperwork or no additional qualification is required to get the modules in scope for the instructors. The annual competency assessments of instructors delivering the installation modules must follow the same assessment requirements as outlined for the new instructors who come in. Yeah. So, and then let's talk a little bit about the combined delivery of the BTTI-M and BTTI-E modules. So I also already showed you a little bit about the Annex 4, where you can see the timetable and you could see the version of the lesson you have, which you need to deliver the whole module from. So you will have some overlapping lessons, and maybe we can even go to the next slide to see them. Sorry, what happened there? Yeah, there.
Oh, sorry, seems to be a little glitch there.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you seeing that properly?
Yeah, I'm seeing it now. Thank you, Thomas.
Yep.
So this chart here, it basically shows you what the difference is for a delivery of the installation mechanical and the installation electrical and combined delivery. You can see out to the right, you have 3 columns, each representing delivery of installation, and you will see what is required of the different elements and what are the differences. So, for instance, for the introduction element, which is identical for everything, this is something you do for all. But then when you get down to lesson 2, which is introduction to installation, you can see there are deviances for some of the elements. So, for instance, when you take safety signs and in importance of appropriate isolation, this is only required for the BTT installation electrical. And the reason for this is that if you take the combined delivery or you take the mechanical installation delivery, then you will already, as part of the prerequisites, have done the bolt tightening and the mechanical BTT mechanical modules. And there you have some overlapping lessons which are exactly equivalent. So we decided to say this is not relevant for mechanical installers or for the combined delivery. The same thing goes if you go to the element of housekeeping in lesson 3, where this is not required for the combined delivery and for the mechanical. So this was one of the ways which we made the total duration of the combined delivery that equals the old BTTI go down from 17 hours and 45 minutes to 16 hours by trimming a little bit here and there. If we go further down, then you can see there are no. Sorry, Thomas, I need to stay on the slide. You can see there are also some other changes, and let me pause a little bit on lesson 5, which concerns handling and storing. And you can see there some of these elements, they are only relevant for the mechanical installation. And this is, of course, something we've done to say, well, we split it up and say these are the mechanical bits and these are the electrical bits. But we have, and this is something I should mention here, made minor changes to the sequence of learning objectives because to make them fit well together. So for instance, in the old element for unloading and storage of main components, which is only relevant for mechanical installers and for the combined delivery, there was a learning objective about the importance of ownership culture, which is relevant for everybody. And so to make this to make the splits work, then we took this learning objective and moved it up to the inspection reception bits, so it could be in there for everybody. And it's a very, very small change, but it's still something, you look through the changelog and you will see how it fits with your lesson plans, and you should be able to plan accordingly for your delivery. We can go to the next slide here. So, and here when you get to lesson 7 and 8 and 9, this is where the big changes come. So for the main components and for principles of mechanical completion, this is of course something which is omitted from the electrical installation bits. And for the long lesson, which is the principles of mechanical completion and including cable work, this is only in the electrical installation module. I should note, however, that when you do the mechanical installation, we've introduced a very, very short lesson, which is principles of electrical completion for mechanical installers. It's only 5 minutes, but it's a juxtaposed version of element 9.1, Introduction to Electrical Completion and Examples of Electrical Completion. And we've done this just to make the mechanical installers aware of what's going on with electrical installation, so they know what to stay clear of if they don't do electrical installations. And this is a good example of what I talked about before, that even if you only do one thing for the instructors, then you should know both things, because it is, from an instructor point of view, a holistic discipline, and you need to know to say what's not included for the other parts. Other than that, there is the introduction to handover and commissioning. This is not relevant for the mechanical installers, so we've also removed that one. And then finally, we have the bit about the theory and the summary and the theoretical tests, which I should mention here. It looks identical when you look at it in the combined delivery, but this is actually where there's a substantial difference from the combined delivery and the two standalone modules. Because for the standalone modules, we abbreviated the theoretical tests down a bit, because for the more than 2-day module that was the full BTTI, there was 20 questions. Now we scaled it down to say if you only do electrical installation or mechanical installation, you can do the test with 10 questions. But then if you do a combined delivery, then of course, again, you need to do the full 20 questions. So this is something you need to be aware of when you do the combined delivery. And of course, timings for the combined delivery and for the standalone modules also needs to be adjusted accordingly. And that's kind of it for the updates for the electrical installation and the mechanical installation and the installation modules. I could see there was a question saying, what about people attending BTTI between now and September? Will they automatically get uploaded to the BTTI-M and BTTI-E? And so the question is yes. Just as all the existing BTTI record holders, this will also be the case for new people who attend the training, even if it's done with training providers who are accredited to deliver the existing BTTI training. So yes, they will get both training records to reflect the training as it will look going forward. And that brings us to the overview of the breakdown of the roles. You want to say something about that, Thomas?
Yeah, I was just going to make sure we tackled any questions. You've covered that question that came in the Q&A there, and I think there was another point raised just related to the kind of safety focus during this training, and it also ties in, I think, to the other BTT modules. We have the importance of appropriate isolation, which is a huge focus in the CoHE training. It also is part of the hazardous energies basic safety, and I think it's quite relevant to the installer training, but it also appears in the BTT mechanical and the BTT electrical and hydraulics modules, safety lessons as well. So I would say one of the things that this change gives us is options for different profiles, electrical and non-electrical, mechanical, but we still cover I think we still quite comprehensively cover the basics and awareness level of hazardous energies for all profiles. Would you agree, Peter?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm just looking in the Q&A. I can see, somebody's just asking about a copy of the presentation. There will be a recording of this webinar available as well. And I do believe, let me confirm, I'm not going to say for sure if the presentation itself is sent out, but I think it is available. I'll confirm that directly, Sebastian. This is a much better update. Somebody says in the comments, this is a much better update than the last one. Well done to all involved. So,
thank you.
Yeah. Was that you, Peter? You put that one in?
No, I didn't. No, I swear.
Okay. I'm going to just go back. Peter, we have a couple of last slides here. I'm just going to highlight, this came up in the discussion this morning about participant prerequisites. We've tried to make it more clear in the BTT standard by kind of formatting it a bit different. Here you can see the participant prerequisites for all the BTT modules. Nothing has changed with bolt tightening. Nothing has changed with the combined BTT installation, mechanical and electrical. You still need the mechanical and bolt to cover the mechanical scope. But what you can see, as you highlighted, Peter, to do the BTT installation electrical, there are no prerequisites. So that's a big time saving for that electrical profile. And just to make it clear, you can see BTT hazardous energies basic safety. The 2-hour, reduced 2-hour version is the only one that you have a prerequisite. The prerequisite to do the 2-hour version is that you already do the BTT mechanical, electrical, and hydraulics. And that's where you would cover substantial safety lessons within each of those, and that's where the time saving comes from. If you're doing a 4-hour standalone version of the hazardous energy basic safety, that is 4 hours with no prerequisites. But I would say it's much more efficient if you kick off your training week with the other BTT modules, and then you blend in to the week at some point the hazardous energies basic safety once you've covered the stuff you need to cover so that you can have the shorter duration. And we put a lot of work into making sure that this was viable. This is just a detailed breakdown to illustrate all of the BTT modules, kind of minute by minute breakdown, and then building back up into training hours, contact time, and days, because we do limit the training time to 8 hours contact time per day. And you can see here some kind of typical profiles. For example, an entry-level technician doing BTT mechanical, electrical, and hydraulics in that first row, they can do a 2-hour version of hazardous energies basic safety, which means they can get all of those done in 4 days, 3.9 days. Somebody coming in, including the bolting module on the next row, can get it done in 39.8 hours, so under 5 days. And it means that you're not having to roll over a weekend into another training week if you have a profile where you're doing all of those modules. And it also highlights from the installer training side, the combined delivery, 960 minutes for the BTTI mechanical electrical, feeding into a much shorter kind of training week for profiles that are doing a limited version of the modules. You know, somebody doing electrical installer training, they may be doing BTT electrical and BTT installation electrical. So they've been trained in 3 days. I would say 3 days, 25 hours. So I think that 1 hour, I think you could find a way to manage that within 3 days without any issues. And so there's a lot of efficiencies that we've built in when you have a training profile that doesn't need to cover everything. You don't need to overtrain. And where you have overtraining, people tend not to use the training. And so this just gives options for those profiles that want a specific scope covered, targeting their work. And so we think this is going to benefit our members and benefit training providers in getting the right people onto the right training. I'm just going to highlight a few of the supporting documents that we've improved with this release. Go to the website and go to the Help Center. You can see it highlighted here in the banner. The Help Center is where you can find frequently asked questions, and you can reach out for direct support from ourselves, from our Zendesk and compliance team, and ultimately questions can be passed along to the project managers and the training development team, and then we might reach out to somebody like Jared or Ian to get support if we need technical support. So you can get answers if you need to ask questions. We've also embedded in section 3 of the standards a change log, and a fully detailed change log is linked. So if you go into the standard itself, you'll actually be able to click on to a hyperlink, and it will bring you to a spreadsheet which has all the change line by line across version 4 and version 5, for example, of the CoHE. And so if you're doing updates to lesson plans, if you're being audited and you're making your updates, that is a useful way of going through and checking all the change, because there's a lot of change in these large documents. The standards are hundreds of pages long, and so we put a lot of work into giving you detailed change logs. We've linked within the standard itself the Help Center, so some people may not be familiar with it. It's now hyperlinked in section 7, where you go to read about developing your training from the standard. You'll find the Help Center linked. We have increased the number of frequently asked questions to give you more support, so you'll find hopefully answers to your questions. And as well as that, we've released this new type of document. We've called it a technical bulletin. So the technical bulletin goes into a fine level of detail on these issues of auditing, certification, legacy records, where there are changes happening to BTTI, to CoHE, and you need to understand how that's going to impact your participant records or your certifications, your audits. Go and look at the technical bulletin. It's broken down section by section with a lot of detail. And again, reach out to us through the Help Center for support if you need it with any of those questions as well. So I'm just going to come back to the room now. We might just use our last few minutes for a bit of discussion. Let me just stop sharing here. Okay, I'm just going back to the Q&A. Do we have anything else here?
Yeah.
Christoph, is it possible to start a course package with the hazardous energies basic safety and then reduce the mechanical, electrical, and hydraulics module? No, Christoph, it is not. The reason for that is quite simple. The safety lessons within the BTT mechanical, hydraulic, and electrical are more substantial than the short equivalent mechanical, electrical, hydraulic safety lessons in the HEBS module. Now, can you design a holistic training week which covers those modules effectively? I think you can, and I think that's where you need to work closely with your certification body to make sure you've got robust lesson plans and you're covering what you need to cover, making sure that you're doing it in the right order. There's certain things you need to know before you go and apply those skills in a scenario, and so there's time efficiencies there, but you have to go about it in the right way, and that will mean that you can fit all this into a training week nicely. Sebastian, hi Sebastian. Another including HBS and the BTT is one of the best things that's happened in my opinion. Okay, so we have a face to a name, so it's not just it's not us blowing our own horn here. So thank you, Sebastian. That's great. It'd be very helpful for the BTT combined details. Okay, some good comments. It's nice to get positive feedback. We're kind of wrapping up, I think, at this stage. I would just kind of come back to the discussion that we were having between ourselves and Jared and Ian there, Peter. I think these are positive changes. There's a little bit of work to do at the initial kind of rollout phase for people to make changes. We have 6 months for people to make changes during the grace period, but I think there's a lot of support there. But overall, for me, I think the big thing that I would say on these changes is that this is going to make the training more attractive. CoHE and BTT installation were a couple of modules or packages of modules altogether that were not as successful as other BTT as other GWO training. And I think this is going to give more options for more different types of participants to attend training and the right training. And from my perspective, that means that people like Siemens will use the training more, and people like Takkion the same, as well as delivering this training more. And I would invite any kind of final contributions, because I can see that we're sort of running up on an hour here.
I suppose from my perspective, I think what's nice to see is that as the industry matures, we're getting away from the one size fits all, and we're allowing people to start thinking about specialisms early on. So we are tackling the installation and tackling the reality, and also indirectly tackling compliance. So if we have people with the correct skill sets to be electrically skilled, and that's the route that they're going to go down, there's a designated pathway for that. If we have people that come from a different arena and a different environment and have more mechanical or hydraulic skills, there's a separate pathway for that. So we are, in what we are doing, we're almost conversely allowing previous experience and previous education to be brought within. So we can easily see how somebody that comes from the forces, for example, or from industry, might come with a traditional skill set and qualifications that we require in this industry. We're now starting to focus in the direct wind experience and wind examples that they need, understanding how we do this as an industry, how we isolate systems as an industry. So for me, it's clear steps forward and tangible examples of practical skill sets that we can sign off on. And once we see these certificates in place, from our perspective, we know that those tasks are fully understood by the technicians that present to us. So it's a good step forward.
Good. It's good to have another positive contribution, Ian. I can see one final comment in the Q&A, and it's just a response. Sebastian was looking to see if the presentation will be shared, and I think there's a note there to say yes, it will be disseminated to everybody that took part. So we've kind of hit our budget of time. We're up to an hour. So I'm just going to say huge thank you to Jared and to Ian for joining us. You're in the UK, Jared, you're in the US, so we're sort of spread geographically, and I think we've got participants from Asia here in the room and different locations, so it's nice to get everyone together, to work together on something like this, and I'm really pleased to see that we've managed to get to the finish line with it. So, Peter, any final words?
Yeah, just to say on the presentation shared that everything I think most from your end, but also for the installation, the breakdown of what I did is in the technical bulletin, the technical notice, and also the breakdown, the detailed breakdown I did of the standard with which elements are unique. You can find that in the FAQ. So everything is available online in the help center under the relevant standards for you to see.
Yes, go into the annex of the BTT and go into the annex of the CoHE standard, and anything that we're presenting, you're going to find it there. You know, it's not that it's hidden away. Okay, so we're kind of at time. Thank you again, Jared. Thank you, Ian, and thank you, Peter, and Virginia for facilitating, get everything set up for us. And
thank you, Thomas.
And thank you to me. It's St. Patrick's Day, so I'm celebrating. I'm here in my green shirt, my green boots and everything. So I'll go for a pint after this.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks to the participants for joining. Good luck, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.